So, thank you very much. This is us at B3. We are delighted to be here. Thanks to Financial News, our friends from Korea Stock Exchange, for inviting us to be here today. And thanks for the distinguished audience to stay here after lunch to listen to me. So, this is a very exciting time, as my friend Chiran from NSC mentioned, and Mr. Lee, very punctually, he said the transformation that our industry is going through in the last few years, especially after the pandemic. This was a key moment for all of us from our point of view of our families and our businesses. So our agenda today, I'm going first to set the scene with some information about the scenario, the economic scenario in Brazil, and also about B3. Then we are going to dive in on the FX market in Brazil, our FX products, and what we have planning ahead around the traditional BRL US dollar contract. So setting the scene. In Brazil, you've been going through this historical high inflation period until early 2000s, late 90s, and then the Brazilian economy started to stabilize. So you can see that our inflation index measured by, by the price, the IPCA, has been declining. We had the peak during the pandemic, but now it has been stabilized below 4%. We expect that it continue to reduce to the level of 351 in 2025. Our interest rate, that we call the Selic rate, the Federal Reserve, the federal funds, so this Selic rate today at 10.75, double digit, is still high, but we are confident that our monetary policy will be effective to decline this rate to the point of below 9%. And then the GDP in Brazil, we can see signals of a potential recovery and growth for 2024 and 2025. Looking at some impacts of all these figures, you look at first how retail investors started to behave after the pandemic. This was not only a phenomenon in Brazil, but in many places, many other countries, they had the same phenomenon. That was how individuals, they start to approach investments. How much sophisticated, especially in emerging markets, the individual investor started to be. So in Brazil, is a classic case, because until year 20s, individual investors used to put most of their savings in poupança, as you say, saving accounts. And after the pandemic, they started to be much more eager in investing in sophisticated instruments, also in the cash markets, but especially on the financial derivatives. But we also see the investors in Brazil interested in instruments like DRs. In Brazil, we have the BDR. So we have Brazilian deposit receipts from many companies listed in the US, many companies listed in Europe. So this is something that's been very popular in Brazil. We see also the local investors interested in the currency futures, also in equity index futures. So it's clearly a situation where we see in Brazil potential growth in different asset classes. And about B3, we are a vertical integrated market operator. So we have all the type of investors, like the international investors, financial institutions, the brokerage houses, You have also the retail investors, issuers, so all the stakeholders, okay, with us. Then we have our offering that goes from the listed derivatives, listed contracts, to OTC derivatives, corporate and public bonds. Then you have the banks funding instruments, lowers and lines. And then, as I said, we are vertical integrated. So we go from trading, our CSD, our central counterparty, settlement, and registration. So the whole value chain is in our platform. In terms of the products overview, just highlighting mainly our equities space and our derivatives space. In the equity market, we had this peak going with a positive trend until 2021. It was a moment where Brazil, the interest rate was at the lowest ever. The interest rate was lowest ever, the inflation was lowest ever, so it was a perfect momentum for investments in more sophisticated instruments than saving accounts. So we start seeing a beginning of the retail investor coming to our infrastructure, which was pushed harder after the pandemic. But on the contrary, because of the increase of the interest rate, the equity market got a bit cold. So that's why you see that declining from 2021. Nevertheless, this is something very interesting, that in Brazil is pretty stable, the participation of retail, institutional investors, non-residents, and financial institutions. What we like is to see that orange portion from non-resident investors. It has been going like that since the 90s, so it gives us a pride that for investors, they look at Brazil as a potential destination for their allocation. So it keeps in the range of 50% participation of foreign investors. When there is an IPO, the foreign investors, they represent over 70% of the subscriptions, historically. In the derivatives markets, it's a different story because this is a growth that started, it continues growing, but since 2010, the number of our contracts, the ADV, started to grow more. And today, we have this ADV of around 23.7 million contracts. So this number is what we have today. It went from 2019, from 11 million, so we more than doubled the number of contracts on daily basis. And you can see again the participation of foreign investors, which started to grow further since 2019. Many reasons. Since 2010, the exchange took a decision to have a much proactive approach in business development, attracting, promoting the Brazilian derivatives market to foreign investors, especially for global market makers, high-frequency traders, algorithm traders, quant funds. So in the same time, we created the infrastructure for that. We launched our brand new data center in 2015-16. We launched our new risk methodology, being much more efficient for multi-asset class trading. So these made our life much easier to attract foreign sophisticated investors to Brazil. Also, contract specification, aligning with international markets. So we turned to be a much more friendly and easy infrastructure for international investors to invest. About the FX market in Brazil. In Brazil, I'd like to start saying that it is an economy that has been growing, and when you look at our peers on the emerging markets, we are straight after China and India. Brazil, to give you an idea, we have 207 million inhabitants. So we have a big size in terms of population, and the potential of the economy in Brazil, it will drive us to numbers more than these 2.3 trillion when allow us. So we believe that this is something that will happen in Brazil. We will continue growing, especially when you see the position of Mexico behind us. So I think there is potential for everyone to continue growing. Foreign direct investments in Brazil. This is another point that is extremely important for us. It has been like this since 95. So Brazil is a destination. It is an easy destination for foreign investors, for foreign companies to invest. Just to give you an idea, 60 years ago, we started the relations between Brazil and South Korea. So 60 years ago, we know that in 1962, the first ship from South Korea with 109 Korean citizens, pioneers from Busan, they were going to Brazil. And they landed in Brazil in 63. Today, just in São Paulo, we have 50,000 Korean citizens living in São Paulo, just in São Paulo. And we have over 110 Korean companies established in Brazil. I'm talking about Korea. We can talk about all the European countries, all the North American countries, and many Asian countries. They have operation in Brazil. The rules of law in Brazil is transparent. So it is a country which we have a democracy. So it is proven to be a place that you can establish your business, you can do business. So the numbers doesn't lie. So you can see that many companies continue investing in Brazil in key sectors like energy, infrastructure, agriculture, technology, and many other services. And again, we are very proud to see the 3 flagships from Korea in Brazil, with plants in Brazil, Samsung, LG, and also Hyundai. So we are very proud. This is to show our position in terms of exports and imports, which is going to be the base for our discussion on FX. So Brazil has a very inclination for exports because of our powerhouse in agriculture. But again, back to the story between Brazil and Korea. Korea is the second, always the second or the third most important trade partner from Brazil from Asia. And our current account in trade is around $11 billion at the moment, number from 2002, 2003. So, as you know, or if it is new for you, in Brazil, the Brazilian currency is not convertible. So this imposes the market to trade offshore in NDF, or in the Brazilian market, we have the restriction only interbank trade on the spot FX market. And they are the only ones that can carry positions in US dollars. So you can see that in terms of numbers, Brazil, the spot market versus NDF, in general terms, is still aligned with the trends in other markets, in the emerging markets, different from the G10. So this is a pattern that when you look to the G10 and when you look to the emerging markets. But then, when you go to the listed market in Brazil, you see a different story. In Brazil, the B3 listed contract, BRL US dollar, has a much more higher volume than the NDF. I'm going to explain further the reasons, and this is where the price formation is in our BRL US dollar family group listed at the exchange. So just to give you some more insights, you can see that on a ADV of 1.8 billion dollars a day, you can see what is traded on the spot market, both on the OTC electronic trading and also without CCP system. So this is the spot market that is only traded by the banks. And then you have the derivatives, which is listed at B3, then with a huge amount of money, volumes growing on daily basis. Both the mini dollar that I'm going to explain to you have a mini contract and a full contract, and the FRC. So as I said, the powerhouse of this trade at the exchange is driven from those pillars that we introduced to you: the trade finance, the flow of investments, and also the infrastructure or the regulation which impose interbank trade for the spot, and as well as in South Korea and in India, we have the authorized dealers that they can operate on the secondary market. We are talking about 175 authorized dealers in Brazil. So this is the workflow between them when they trade and when they carry their positions. And after that, naturally, there is a hedging need or even a speculation, depending on the type of investors, which direct their operation to our listed market. So bringing the liquidity to the B3 platform, bringing also the price formation to B3 dollar family contracts. So we have our performance as well. So as I said, the US BRL is where the price formation and liquidity is concentrated at the exchange, because the FX market, as I explained to you also, is only on the spot market, only interbank. We have the two contracts, the mini contract and the full contract, the standard contract. We have the mini contract that was the second. It has been the second most traded contract in the world. I was discussing with Iran that we are a very good advertisement being after India, after NSE, because any global FX player, when they trade India and they think about where to trade next, they see Brazil. And then this is a next step for them if they want to expand their business in the international markets. And the WDO that we call the mini contract, it's growing significantly, as I said in the beginning, after 2019, because of the participation of the retail investors. And then we've launched it, we implemented a separated book that is run by brokers, where there is a cap of transactions that can be directed for this book from the retail liquidity, which helps the brokers to promote more, educate their retail investors about how to trade futures. It's proved to be very positive on the financial derivatives. This is just a high level, the contract specifications for we call the US dollar BRL family. So as I said, the standard contract, $50,000, the mini contract, $10,000, the round lot, 5-to-1, so the expiration dates and the trading hours from 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So you can see the tickers, the calendar spread that we offer, and how we do our pricing. So just to summarize, the FX market in Brazil has been proven to be efficient and growing steadily. We are happy to see the diversification of participants in our market. And we want to grow. we want to grow pairs with other currencies. At the moment, we have 16 currencies available in Brazil in a mini contract version. So these 16 currencies, you can go from euro, Japanese yen, Turkish lira, Swiss francs, Mexican peso, British lira, New Zealand. So we have a list of 16 currencies available in Brazil. Again, with a breakdown between foreign investors and local investors that is reasonably positive. And we believe that there is still opportunity to continue growing and continue trying retail investors to our platform. When there is a not a liquid contract, we work with market making program with some stipends to motivate potential market makers to help our markets. So I will stop here. I think I've finished the time. Thank you very much for the opportunity.